Welcome to the Surgeons in 3D Printing podcast. And today I have a very special guest, an old friend now. She is the Central Regional Coordinator of Makers Making Change at Winnipeg, Canada. Suzanne, from a very young age, from England, she supported people with disabilities. Since arriving in Winnipeg, Manitoba in 2007, she has worked in a technology sector, ensuring equity for minority Canadians. Her role at Makers Making Change enables her to continue to support her local community by combining her knowledge, skills, and experience. Even though they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, however, Suzanne has learned new maker skills since joining the Neil Square Society. That's amazing. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Ruchi, and pleasure to be here.
So you have also had your accomplishments, like you are a master's in industrial and organization psychology from University of East London. You've also been an interim president of the Canadian Cerebral Palsy Sports Association, crisis counselor, and of course, you're a speaker at larger conferences across Canada and internationally. With that, I'd like to ask you, how has your journey been switching over from England to Canada at Makers Making Change?
Well, my journey from England, I've been here now in Winnipeg for 14 years. Mm-hmm. I've been with Makers Making Change for the past 2 years. It's my second anniversary with the organisation on Friday. So it's been a journey. Often people ask me, why did you go to Canada? The reasons are endless. How do you like Canada? Do you miss England? And it's yes and yes and yes, and sometimes no and no and no. But it's like anybody who emigrates somewhere. I mean, Ruchi, you're in England. You know that journey too well yourself. Yeah. We miss things about home, our home countries. But when we're there, we miss things about the country that becomes known as home. Yeah. So. My career path has been one of interest. I qualified. I gained my master's in industrial and organizational psychology, as it's known in North America, literally just before I left the UK. So when I came here to Manitoba, it took a while to find my place and to determine what my journey was going to be. And as you eloquently put, I've worked within the technology sector. I've done various volunteer board roles, and currently as the interim president of the Canadian Cerebral Palsy Sports Association, which is an amazing organisation to be a part of. We had the Paralympians out in Tokyo, wow. Which was amazing, and so it's this conundrum of life, right? And coming here and doing the job that I now do with Makers Making Change is an incredible organisation, and it has such it's so community driven, and it sort of hits all the bells and whistles that make me make my day and my working life easy. So it's quite an amazing place to be a part of.
Right. So, of course, we had a conversation a couple of times in the past 2 years, of course, and you have always been enjoying the work that you're doing. I do get that. And I do find that Makers Making Change is doing an amazing job because I've been a part of it for some time. So I would like you to tell about what is it that happens in Makers Making Change? What is the mission of the organization? And what are you doing with respect to 3D printing? Because we are quite well talking about 3D printing here.
Absolutely. So Makers Making Change is part of the Neil Square Society, and it's an organisation that's been existing since 1984, thereabouts. And Neil Squire was a young Canadian basketball player. He was at university, had life was in front of him. And he was in a very serious road accident and became, as a result of that, when he awoke to this new world of, he was a tetraplegic. He could not communicate. He had very limited vocal use, and his relation was an engineer, and he wanted to do something to sort of give back some independence and communication to Neil. So he developed a very early sip and puff technology using an Apple E2E computer. Most of us didn't even know they existed really back then. Hey, you know. And he developed this technology where Neil would sip and puff Morse code into a mouthpiece, which would be translated by the computer into the written word. So he was then able to start to communicate in a different way, but still be able to communicate. And sadly, Neil passed away, and Bill Cameron founded Neil Squire Society in his name as a legacy. And ever since then, they have had sort of research and innovation at the heart of what they do, but they now run all sorts of programs for people with disabilities. So they do employment programming, they have hearing solutions, they have distance computer training, and we have Makers Making Change, which is I'm a part of. So across Canada, we have various offerings in different provinces, but we, as an organisation, in 2016, Makers Making Change received funding via Google, and that allowed us to really develop what became known as the lip sync, which was the sort of the 2016 version of the original sip and puff technology. Wow. Invented by Bill. And that funding allowed us to really extend and grow that piece of assistive device. And all of our devices are then all available via the internet. It's all open source. Again, that funding has sort of allowed that to happen, and we have a chapter model which is helps us to distribute around North America and in fact globally now because of the wonderful World Wide Web. And so we have 140 now today. We have 147 assistive devices in our library online at makersmakingchange.com that can all be downloaded anywhere in the world, and it's all open source. There's no proprietary items in there whatsoever. Much of the components are 3D printed or have something that's 3D printed within them. It cuts across all of the STEM programming and STEAM programming in terms of technology, but ultimately they're very affordable items, and they are made by our maker community and our chapters around North America and around the globe now, for people, the end user being the person with disabilities. You can also make requests via the website for devices that may not be in the library, that you may require customized items. So that can all be done. And our maker community, it combines sort of three movements really: the maker community, it's crowdfunding, open source, and it brings all those people together. So we can really help produce devices to help improve the daily quality of life of people with disabilities at very minimal cost to them. And where possible, they get donated to as well. So yeah, it's quite amazing. And using that 3D printed fabrication model has enabled sort of DIY assistive tech. And there's incredible things that can happen when amazingly people come together and find solutions.
Exactly. So you have the printing, which happens physically at a place, which is a kind of a maker's space, and and the software solutions and the designing happens all online.
Yeah, it really, you can. So the items that you would see in our library, for example, they're all it's all notated to who the original designer is. So anybody can design anything, and if it goes through the process where it's, it goes through a certain quality control, etc., they're all prototypes if you want, but they all go through a certain quality and a robust testing to make sure that they can go onto the site and that other people can replicate. And those items, as I say, that it links into something called Thingiverse. That's the repository of all the files, the STL files that you need for 3D printing. And the beauty of it is, you know, sometimes people are having 3D printers in their homes, right? You have hobbyists, but you also have maker spaces, and you have engineering schools, and you know, faculty across the world, and you know, that are using these new innovative ways of engineering and fabrication. And it also offers such a great learning opportunity. So we have makers from schools to university. We have linkages now with Scouts Canada for, you know, there's activities that they can access. So the maker can be anywhere, and and we collaborate. We bring the volunteer makers with the people with disabilities, and we really push for that to happen through the website. We have a forum on there. There's resources for our chapters. There's mechanisms by which you can apply to become a chapter. You know, sort of, it's all there laid to bear, really, to access by anybody. Amazing. And we are there to support anybody who wants to come into that.
That's very interesting. And I have been there, so I've seen the things there. So it is really, really interesting. I would rather to ask people to actually go there and have a look, have a feel where you can actually contribute, or if you can actually learn in the process. So that's an amazing community for sure. But with this, I would like to ask you, how does a normal day go for you?
Oh, wow. A normal day, no 2 days are ever the same, Ruchi.
That's true.
You know, they literally are not. I have a young engineer, Stephen, who works in our office now. I mean, we're sort of part office, part home, you know, with the hybrid of COVID, the world that we live in today. So we now have 2 3D printers. So Stephen will sort of be involved with the engineering side and the designing and that type of thing. That's really is his forte. Mine is much more focused on the outreach and reaching out to people, doing things like this today, the podcast with you, and I thank you for that opportunity. But also building partnerships and working with groups and schools. Now, pre-COVID, we would do a lot of in-person, conferences, speaking. We would do build events with corporate team building sessions, and big events with big companies and schools and universities. Obviously, within COVID, we've had to move that into a remote environment. So I will organise with collaborators and partners build events where we'll be sort of sorting out 3D printed parts from our community of printers as makers, as well as sort of our own. We will get those things out to a group. So most recently we have a toy hack coming up so we've bought all the toys, and they're going to be distributed to a company here in Winnipeg. They're going to distribute them again out to their community, their employees across Canada. And we're going to have a big build event on the 3rd of December, which is the United Nations International Day of People with Disabilities. And people are going to actually hack a toy and build switches so that a child can receive a toy for Christmas, and those switches will operate that toy, so the child doesn't have to have the dexterity to be able to do that. So that's every day there's something, an outreach activity, a coordination piece, ordering toys, working out, finding people in the community to participate and help us out, reaching out to companies to help with donations or to be involved in builds and funding it that way, so that our end users don't actually have to pay for anything. Because if it's made through the community, through the collaboration online, our makers are reimbursed by the requester just for parts, just for materials and shipping. But if a company has a build event where we have items, those are donated.
That's amazing. Wow.
So Yeah, so my day can be very, very varied.
That's interesting. So, I mean, what are the, like, you have two printers. So what are the materials that you print? So they are all plastic based?
Yes, we use mainly PLA. There are a variety of filaments and sort of plastic. It looks like a big plastic ball of wire. It's not. It's actually, if my memory serves me correctly, PLA is made out of cornstarch. So it's one of the more affordable
it is.
filaments. Yeah. But we do have, we do things in PETG, which is another type. But we use small Prusas from Poland, Prusa printers, which are very sort of plug and play and very easy to use, great capacity. There are many on the market, of course, that people have. But the PLA is really, it's a pretty hardy little filament to use for most things, and it's easy to work with, and it makes costs well. I mean, and sometimes we do things in other things, but really PLA and a little bit of PETG. But we do have makers who have much more advanced access to 3D printers that with more advanced that are able to take more stronger materials. So those people will use them to design certain things or customize, but we also combine many other types of materials as well. But pretty much everything has a 3D printed piece to it because it just makes, it's just so accessible, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Although it does sometimes take a while to print.
yeah, of course, it does. It does take its time. So that's difficult. I mean, to get everything into that time
balance
zone. Yeah,
yes,
balance.
Yes. Yeah. But we're fortunate we have a great community that if we can't get things made, that we pull everybody else in. That's one of the things I end up doing with my day, right? Pull it all together, bring everyone on board.
That's interesting. So with that, let's lead to the point that why are we here today, right? So we are here today to talk about your Guinness World Record attempt that is going to happen soon. And so please tell us about that. And our listeners would like to know in detail about that so that people can really participate in this.
Yes. Yeah. And we really, we welcome that. This is something that we have been going to be doing on December the 3rd. So it coincides with the UN International Day of People with Disabilities. And we are going to attempt as a community with as many people as we can muster around the world to attempt a world record, Guinness World Record. And that record is to raise awareness of the need for affordable assistive technology solutions for people with disabilities. And the way in which we are doing that, we are inviting people, as I say, from around the world to take part in a virtual do-it-yourself DIY assistive technology lesson. Now, that lesson will comprise of information about the organisation, about 3D printing, about assistive technology. It will last 30 minutes. It's not a build event. There are build events going on that we are doing, and our chapters are doing it alongside of us to sort of make that day a really sort of big positive day. But with the actual world record attempt, it's this 30-minute lesson. And to register for that, all you have to do is you can go to atworldrecord.com. That takes you straight to the website, and you can register there. Or you can go onto the makersmakingchange.com makersmakingchange.com website, and you'll see there's a link there, and you can register. And when you register, you're registered to do this. It will take place. It will start at midnight on the 3rd of December, Eastern Time, in American Eastern Time. It will start at midnight, and it will run to 11:59, again Eastern Time. But if you go on the website, we actually have a table of all the different zones, so that you know what time you'll be able to get on and access this. And if you have to complete the 30-minute lesson for it to count, because that's what the Guinness World Record will do. That's their counter. So it's an amazing thing for us to have sort of initiated, and to have the backing of Guinness World Record officially.
Yeah, and I also feel there's a lot of learning involved in this process.
Yes.
I mean, so the people who are actually enrolling, they're giving their 30 minutes of time, which is very valuable. But in return, they are learning quite a lot in that squeezed amount of time.
Yes.
So if one enrolls here, there is a lot of learning involved as well.
There is a lot of learning. And we were trying to make that so, concise, that it doesn't become too laborious for somebody, that it's a soundbite learning experience. But the beauty of it is it introduces the world of disability. It introduces what is assistive tech? How can we do this? And this is, as I said, it comes back to that crowdsourcing idea. The more people that know about this, and it's incredible how many people don't, people with disabilities and others, those that want it and need it, and those that can help provide it, there's still so many people that don't know, and there's still so many people that have no understanding of how 3D printing can actually support that process. We have this technology at our fingertips now. There are limitations depending on what you use. Some things do take time, but it's equally easy to, when something breaks, you can repair it. You can build another bit.
Exactly.
So that whole of that learning experience is very important, integral to the growth of the community and the accessibility, and just the whole raising awareness of what it is to be a person with disabilities in this world.
Exactly.
That we live in.
Yeah. And so that's a wonderful initiative. And I also request my audience to actually sign in. The link will be there on the show notes. So sign in there, be a part of this change. And not only are you helping those people, but I think you're learning quite a lot for yourself without having to pay anything, but just your 30 minutes. So that should be great. Wow.
Yes. And I hope to see many people from around the globe. As we have about 25 countries represented at the moment. We have about 17 official partners who have come on. And if you want to find out more, if you go onto the website, you'll find out you can contact me and colleagues, and how you could become a part of this community. And that first step is that attempt at the world record. So hashtag ATworldrecord.com.
Perfect. Hashtag ATworldrecord.com. It'll be there. All the details will be there on the show notes. So please go ahead and watch. Yeah. Anything else, Suzanne, that I didn't ask you that you would like to talk about?
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, if anybody out there is interested in starting a chapter, we fund and support Canadian chapters right now, but we do have a chapter in South Korea. And we have many in parts of the United States, but we partner very closely with Print Labs UK, and they have a big challenge going on with schools and universities, and even this year they even have an independent group, and that's the Make Able Challenge. And that is actually sort of done in partnership with us as well. But you can actually view videos of people that need this sort of certain types of devices, and you can design and enter the challenge. So that's makeable.com, and it's through Print Labs UK. So that's another great way to get involved, and lots of resources, and on our website you have lots of resources for educators. For chapters, there's a chapter application process if anyone wants to do that. So we just want everybody to come and be a part of this exciting, this sort of the excitement of what we generate and what we do, and print for social good.
Yes, of course. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
and so you're doing an amazing job, a wonderful job for so many others, and you've been doing it for years together now. So congratulations on that. And it is a pleasure to talk to you today. And let's see how far we go with this. But that's interesting.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. And I look forward to seeing all the different countries signing up.
Yes, I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you.